Welcome, greetings to Spiritual Warriorship. I think tomorrow is the first day of spring, if I'm not mistaken. How do you feel? Springy? Are you ready to face the challenges? Are you ready for the spiritual warriorship? Somehow I'm feeling enlivened, not too anxious as I usually do, but I want to welcome regular spiritual warriors and any new comers for the spiritual warriorship. We're reading from books by His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, who's written a number of books. I think right now there's 16 of them and another one's coming out shortly, but there's 6 spiritual warrior books. And we've done some work from Spiritual Warrior 3, and now we're in Spiritual Warrior 2, of which we've read School of Love, What is Love, and probably tonight we'll finish the chapter on what is lust. But I wanted to encourage you, if you can, because we're talking about His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami. I don't know how many of you may know of him, know him, but he was with us until June 2005 when he left his body. There is a book, his biography, Black Lotus. It's the story, the spiritual journal of an urban mystic. I feel to read to you what it says about the book, and maybe it'll encourage you to find out more about this wonderful soul who came to us and brought us so much. Black Lotus, the spiritual journey of an urban mystic. This volume explores the life and mission of His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, 1950 to 2005, an African-American seeker who rose from an impoverished condition in a Cleveland ghetto to become a dynamic worldwide spiritual leader. Black Lotus examines the broad range of his life, from his early years as a child evangelist to his work as a teenager with the civil rights movement. Here, as a junior leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, he directly assisted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Soon after arriving at Princeton University on a scholarship, he became involved in the black nationalism, at the same time excelling as a student of international law, race relations, psychology, and yoga. His journey took a surprising turn when he affiliated with the Hare Krishna movement, known in India by its traditional name, Vaishnavism. This ancient science of the soul, with its embrace of universal spiritual principles, would provide the framework for his life's mission: global ministry, community building, interfaith dialogue, material and spiritual welfare work. Thus, he has been recognized internationally, as evidenced by both his coronations as a high chief in Warri Kingdom in Nigeria, and in his becoming the first African-American Vaishnav guru, with disciples in every major country of the world. Black Lotus is an uplifting story, enriched by the personal testimonies of his family, friends, college professors, mentors, disciples, and other travelers on the spiritual path. As a result, the reader is offered an intimate look at the Swami's life and times, which blossom on these pages in florid detail. As the beauty and sublime perfection of a lotus rises in majesty above the stem, which is buried deeply in the clouded waters, so Black Lotus is a tribute to one who rose above numerous obstacles and limitations, inspiring others to do the same. And I hope this inspires you. You can purchase this book at Krishna.com store. So, and it'll give you a sense, maybe, more of who we're bringing to you through these words. And his words to us as spiritual warriors is that he presented these ideas of spiritual warriorship so that we can get in tune with the concept of being a spiritual warrior, which is a positive way of thinking of a warrior. And his presentation of spiritual warriorship is to really help us. Help us do what? Help us become grounded in understanding who we are as spiritual beings. If you've been following along with these readings, this is brought out continuously. We're spiritual beings, eternal beings. We're spirit souls. It's also to help us to be able to cope with life in trying times. And it's to help us use spiritual weapons to battle the tide of depression, anxiety, and feelings of hopelessness sweeping our society. And he also gave us the weapons. What are the weapons that we're using? Love, humility, compassion, faith, and self-knowledge. With these weapons, we can help other human beings reach higher levels of consciousness. So I hope those of you that have been following us on a regular basis or even intermittently are beginning to acquire, develop those qualities and are using them. Now, as he reminds us, and I like to remind us, even myself, that the path of the spiritual warrior is not an easy one. It demands courage, determination, discipline, intense compassion, and unconditional love. It requires an understanding that this world is not the final chapter. All right? And we're going to touch on that as we go through our work tonight. Now, before I start reading, because I want to do a review of this chapter and hopefully, as I say, finish it up. But last week, I don't know how many of you were with me, but I shared with you a challenge I was going through and how I went back and I found some quotes from what we had already read that helped me become stronger, and I'm hoping to pass the test of that particular challenge at that time. And what I want to do is just review quickly the 3 areas that we had been through about challenges, because I want you to think about what challenges you may have been through this past week or last week, a week before, because they're going to come. We're in the material world, the material body. But those who heard the exchange, were you able to use any of that information, thoughts, ideas, concepts presented in dealing with challenges, or even understand? I want you to think about that, and I don't see the chat room myself because I'm looking at the camera here, and I have this soul here who gets that. But if you are willing to just maybe put a note on there, write in there that you met a challenge and what was given last week or what you've been hearing has been helpful, I would appreciate that to get an idea, because Bhakti Tirtha Swami used to say before a class most of the time, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to give you something to help your consciousness rise and to be able to deal with life at this time and become strong spiritual warriors. So I would like you to do that if you care to. And this is the challenge, what he said. Remember when we read School of Love? In that section it says, if we accept that we are made for love, and remember he said, reminded us there, the soul is made for love. And that's who we really are. And it's just a self-knowledge that's coming. If we accept that we are made for love, it does not matter what kinds of complications come upon us. We will just see them as opportunities to capture love and give love. You're able to deal with that when some complication came up. Or did you remember it? Or just anybody? Let us know. The other point on challenges, he says, the Lord does not go on vacation. The Lord does not neglect us or have favorites. He always deeply loves every soul and arranges challenges and adventures for each of us. Did you see your challenge as an adventure from the Lord? Just think about it, because I know you've had them if you're out there, unless you're a saint from some faraway place, because we have to go through them. So think on that. If you had an experience, or I don't want to know the whole experience, but I would like to know, did you remember this when some complication or some challenge came up? That the Lord loves us and he arranges adventures for each of us. Okay? And the other point that he reminds us, Bhakti Tirtha Swami reminds us, when we inhabit a material body in the material world, there will be constant tests. And tests are challenges that you can either pass or fail. And that's why he reminds us, self-knowledge, a spiritual warrior having self-knowledge, the self-knowledge and using the intelligence in a positive way gives you an opportunity, he uses that phrase, to pass these tests because you recognize it. He says, once we have understood the lessons and passed the tests, it becomes a matter of performance and of acting upon what we have practiced. It's like in school. If you're studying a subject and you keep failing the test, you have to study more, get a friend to help you study. And once you study and you understand the subject matter, you get a test again, but you then pass and you can move on to the next grade or more in the subject matter. This is spiritual life we're talking about. Spiritual life in the material world. So we have to go beyond what is material and get to the, and that's what he keeps reminding us of. Actually, he says, all of our so-called relationships of love here on this plane are really to help us fix whatever has to be fixed. Before we enter into the spiritual world of divine eternal romance. So he's given this incentive to really see the challenge, the complication, but know that we're a soul made for love. And we can see that as an opportunity, as he said, to capture and give love. Okay? So that's the challenges. If you want to share that it was helpful, or you had some challenge and you found it helpful, or if you had some challenge and it didn't help you, you can let us know that too. All right? So now, we will continue. We're reading Spiritual Warrior 2, Transforming Lust into Love. And we're in the conclusion of chapter 3, What is Lust? Now, I like to review, you know that. When I start reviewing, I get carried away. I'm hoping that light will be enough on this. Okay, so I made some points. Just go through. I'm going to go through quickly. Hopefully, it will refresh your mind if you've been a regular listener. Or you can make a note of it. If you're here for the first time, just listen and see if something touches your soul. And again, these programs are saved on my computer, and then at some point they put them on Krishna.com, and you can catch them later. So, quick preview on what is lust. First thing, he defines lust. What does he say? Lust is actually an egocentric misdirection of the love that is our birthright. A love inherent in all creation. Because we are part and parcel of a loving God, in our natural state, we share that love. Here in the material world, though, we're not in our natural state. This world is not our home. And the self-centered energy of lust has caused us to forget our birthrights. Okay, I'm so brilliant here. Suffering suffering is an inherent aspect of being born into the material world. And who hasn't had some suffering? And it cannot, this being in this material world cannot bring us happiness. He says here, we cannot have sufficient love for God if we become too attached to the things of this world. Because we cannot serve God and Mammon simultaneously. The choice of God or Mammon is always up to us. He calls this section, we are accountable. And again, I'm trying to make this short, and of course I feel like reading the whole thing. But he's saying here that we are accountable. The choice of God or Mammon is always up to us. Despite appearances, we are always responsible for our actions. When's the last time something happened and you pointed to somebody? We have to look at ourselves. What they say, if you point one finger, there's 3 pointing back at you. And if you're excited and involved in your spiritual life and know that your purpose for being here is to develop that spiritual life and know who you are. And that's why spiritual warriorship is so important. He says, the difference can be found in each person's level of commitment to spiritual life. And let me read before that one. He says, what causes one person to act immorally while another does not? Both individuals may face the same temptations, yet one succumbs while the other resists. Or one gives in occasionally while the other yields on a regular basis. The difference can be found in each person's level of commitment to spiritual life, which increases the level of resistance to the negative influences. And I want you to stop a minute, moving along, but to think, what is your commitment to your spiritual life? Is your spiritual life an important aspect of your spiritual life? This is what he's bringing to us and tapping into us to become more mindful. He says, if we do not give and receive love in a natural way that is in alignment with our spiritual birthright, our love turns into lust, which forces us to act in ways that we would not normally accept. Then, because we feel forced, we become depressed, demoralized, unfulfilled, and consequently angry. He goes on, we do not realize that lust has seduced us into a dependency that will ultimately destroy our health and well-being. He says, to avoid falling into these traps and to live a fully human being, like a human being fully, live fully as a human being, we must learn to control our lusts by regulating the senses. Lust hides out in the senses, looking for a chance to take advantage of us. And we also must master the mind. We often have difficulty keeping the mind under control, even when we manage to refrain from speaking inappropriately or stop ourselves from taking an unwise action. Everything in our lives is based on the quality of the mind. Were you here with the 12 qualities of a spiritual warrior? The first one was mastery of the mind. Everything in our lives is based on quality of mind. Who we are now, who we were before, and who we're going to be, and to what degree we are bound or liberated. He says, you're talking of tests here, we can also fail our tests by remaining attached to this world, which means we are not yet receptive of God's will. Remember, the Lord tests us to discover whether we are willing to put Him first no matter what. And this is important to think about, especially if you're studying Bhakti Yoga, if you're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, if you're studying this Vaishnavism, if you're studying Krishna consciousness, we have been taught to understand that God is a person, not a gross material person, spiritual person, personality. I always say if we have personality, God has to have personality. We're made in His image and likeness. So if you understand that God is a loving person, then it says, remember, the Lord tests us to discover whether we're willing to put Him first no matter what. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. That is why we should remain calm if we have no money, no food, nobody to talk to most of the time, nobody to laugh with, or nobody with whom to share our lives. This has all been arranged by the Lord, and there is a reason for the situation we are facing that is higher than we can discern. And you know, these situations he just named, usually when people are going through something like that, you'll hear them, oh God, oh God, oh, why is this God? Why? So there is an innate knowingness that there is a God, but it's to know the truth of that God, that He loves us and He wants us to put Him first. And as what does the Bible say? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will follow. So we go on, so we can. Another thing he reminds us that we must be grateful. Our lack of gratitude only prolongs our suffering. We have to be thankful for what we have. If it's being arranged, as it said, then it's what we need at the time to bring us closer to God. How can you be thankful? You just say, thank you, Lord. I do it every day. I'm so thankful when I can get up and move around one day, each day. Our lack of gratitude only prolongs our suffering. We should try to discover the Lord's mercy in all our circumstances, however difficult they may be. He is offering us an opportunity to grow. So now, this is where we left off last week, I believe. And this is where I'm starting tonight. It's still the chapter, What is Lust? Text, chapter, page 91 in this book. And it's called The Importance of the Human Form. Can that light go up a little bit more? It's getting... Although all life forms on earth are affected by different degrees of imprisonment in the material world, the human platform is essential. Thank you. Oh, that's much better. The human platform is exceptional, and human beings have an important role to play. The Bible elaborates this, saying that humans have dominion over other living beings on this earth. The word dominion here does not imply a right to exploit or abuse, but it does indicate that the human condition has special meaning. What is so unusual about a human being? According to the Vedas, there are 8,400,000 varieties of life forms that the soul can occupy. Among these, the human form is the primary one that can serve as an escape vessel. Do you know what that means? Why that's called? He goes on. This means that souls have greater potential to free themselves from the cycle of birth and death while in the human body. An animal or plant that dies moves up to the next species automatically through the spiritual evolutionary process. According to Vedic teachings, human beings are especially endowed with sufficient ability to make inquiries about self-realization and to learn how to obtain relief from suffering, disease, old age, and death. And isn't that what we're doing? Right now we're gaining self-knowledge and understanding, and that shows the importance of us being in this human body. Let's not waste it. It's an opportunity, as he keeps telling us throughout the book. It's an opportunity. His next section, the final section of this chapter, is called God's help is always available. All right, there's help always available. As human beings, we must make intelligent use of this precious opportunity. We don't want to waste it. And we can do this, we can do so if we remember that the Lord is present in our hearts as the Holy Spirit or Super Soul, providing a loving guidance. That means, right? He sees everything you're doing. He hears everything you're saying. He's right there. And when you're ready to open to His will, He guides you. I remember I was always, excuse me, always sort of, I was always God conscious of almost all my life. My mother was very stressing God always being there. And I remember with my children, I would always, talk about God, and that God's watching you, and I even, if I can't see you, God sees you. And I remember my oldest daughter one time said if she bumped her toe, the first thing she thought, what did I do? God was punishing her. But it's good to be mindful. This way you don't, well, I'll do this and nobody will know. Someone always knows. When we are selfless, the Lord knows. Conversely, as we have seen, the Lord is aware of our improper behavior too. And we will be held accountable. What's that phrase? What goes around comes around. Oh, what that? We're accountable. If we are feeling lonely, depressed, forsaken, or overburdened, we must remember that this particular kind of test is being given to us to see how we respond. As we pass our tests, we experience greater happiness and joy. We are beginning to experience higher pleasures by connecting with the reservoir of pleasure, the Supreme Lord. And that's our purpose in this human body, in this material world, to reconnect with the Supreme Lord. And He wants to see, He's ready for you to come home. They say He wants us home more than we want to go. But you can't go with a lot of baggage. You can't go with a lot of debris. So you have to have tests. Even, I just came to mind, even to, if you want to give blood to somebody whose life you have to have your blood tested. So tests are an important part of this. And when you're dealing spiritually, just remember, but when you are getting this knowledge and understanding, then when the situation, you can say, another test. What do I know now? How do I use my knowledge to move through this? How do I show God that I really want Him? Or you may not want Him at that time. And you say, later for you. I want to continue enjoying right now. Okay, so we have choice. We are accountable. We are responsible. He says, as we pass our tests, we experience greater happiness and joy. We are beginning to experience higher pleasures by connecting with the reservoir of pleasure, the Supreme Lord. To prepare ourselves for going back home to Godhead, we must attune ourselves to the spiritual world while still in the material environment. Such attunement means that we learn to become selfless rather than selfish, compassionate rather than cruel, and free from the clutches of greed, lust, and anger. Lust never fulfills us. We have seen how it works. Lust turns into anger. Anger turns into illusion. Illusion attracts us over and over again into the confusion of being separate from God. We can interrupt this endless cycle only by making a firm commitment to convert the lust back into its original form of love. And that's the end of this chapter. There are questions and answers coming up, but I'd like to know, are there any questions at this time or comments?
I don't think any questions.
Comments?
There's been some comments of appreciation. There's some comments of appreciation. Thank you so much, Mother Andrani, for helping us to utilize this opportunity.
Okay.
There's different discussion going on about what you're talking about.
Oh, the discussion is going on in the chat room, among others.
Yeah.
Hey, talk to me, you guys. What's going on out there? Huh? I was thinking of saying, please, if you're on, I hope you're here for hearing from Bhaktitirtha Swami. He's given us so much. And then hopefully exchange with me, if you don't mind, on the chat room. I'd like to know where you are located for one thing, and any comments. But it's all right. I'm learning to accept God's will. I'm being tested. Okay. Listen, let's hear some questions that came to him after this lecture, and maybe something that's on your mind. The question is, lust is love, and love comes from God. So, if I'm feeling lusty or acting in a lusty way, does this mean that what I really want is God? Bhaktitirtha Swami answers, yes. It means that even the greatest cheaters, abusers, manipulators, alcoholics, or drug addicts really want God in their deepest inner consciousness. Their focus is just misdirected. We all want to be with our best friend in the most beautiful environment there is. We all long for perfect reciprocation, perfect love. and perfect happiness. Ultimately, we must learn that all such perfection can only be found with God. Although we are all looking for the same thing, lust improperly directs our energies and distorts our behavior. Since lust is merely misplaced love, nothing exists in this material creation except love in various degrees of disarray. Since lust is merely misplaced love, nothing exists in this material creation except love in various degrees of disarray. That is why we all feel a little empty. We all long to be more loved. If someone says, I love you, I love you, I love you, we respond, oh, tell me again. Say it more often. Say it slowly. Say it more romantically. Say it with more feelings. Huh? Sounds familiar? It's true. Oh, please, tell me I'm your greatest love. And promise that I'll always be the most important person in your life. And keep on reminding me. He says, we are always looking for love because love is the only quality that is actually missing in our lives. We are always looking for love because love is the only quality that is actually missing in our lives. Unfortunately, because we are covered with lust, we keep trying to find that love outside ourselves, in drugs, in alcohol, prestige, wealth, power, or countless other misguided ways. But these substitutes never make us happy. We will only be fulfilled when we discover pure, unadulterated love, which is always available if we know where to look for it. That was quite a question and answer, I felt. Any comments on that? Okay.
There is one question prior to that. Someone named Foot Dust wants to know, how does lust lurk within our senses? How does it?
How does lust lurk within our senses? Okay, what did we say about that? I'm going to go back to the author because he describes it so nicely. How lust, here it is. Here it is. It lurks within our senses for one reason, because we are not controlling our senses. We know when we are not acting properly, when we're not speaking properly, when we are just not doing the right thing. And that's where lust comes in. And when we get that, then we have to use the intelligence. Remember, we went through that the senses are like wild horses taking you here and there. And the mind is like the reins. And until we can capture that mind to pull in the rein on the senses and then let the intelligence guide the mind to the right action, and then the senses will just run away with us. And that's where the lust is. The lust disappears once we regulate our senses and master our minds. He stated that so clearly here. Ways lust tricks us. I don't know, is that good enough? Because if not, I will definitely want to give you word for word what he says here. Because lust causes us to lose our sanity, we often behave in ways beneath our original nature, and then our lust becomes compounded with anger. If we do not give and receive love in a natural way that is in alignment with our spiritual birthright, our love turns into lust and forces us to act in ways we would not normally accept. And there was another here where he tells us outright that lust hides in the senses. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When he talks about also what makes one person act immorally and another not, it's the difference can be in the commitment to a spiritual life. If we're committed to a spiritual life, we will be associating with spiritual people, will be involved with spiritual organizations, and the senses won't have a chance to run wild like the horses. And as we regulate our senses, lust cannot rule us there. Yeah, here he says, this is how lust keeps us trapped. Once we give in, the mind tricks us again and again. It knows our weaknesses and whispers to us seductively. Here's a chance. You know you want to. Go for it. So it's the mind we have to keep master so that we can control the lust, because it's in the senses. Is that helpful? Did he respond? I missed seeing faces asking questions.
He's responding to somebody else's question.
Somebody else is answering him?
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the next question in this chapter. Maybe it'll also help with the answering that. He says, all around me I see competition and the drive to get to the top. I see it in myself too. Now that I'm listening to you, I wonder if it is foolish to engage in such behavior when we're all in such a fallen state to begin with. The answer: yes. Actually, from the perspective of more evolved beings in other realms, we are all handicapped and at a primitive level of evolution. Our gross material bodies are not refined. Yet, in our egocentric way, we are extremely proud of them. Just think about it. Our physical bodies are filled with stool, urine, pus, blood, and parasites. What is there to be proud of? It is idiotic to be conceited about belonging to a certain race or about our physique, the color of our eyes, or the length of our hair. A young lady was here the other day visiting me. Pretty young lady. And she's wearing her hair. So she says to me, "Does my head look too big?" What are you talking about? The way I have my hair, because she had it pulled together in the back. I said, well, to me, big means like this. No, it doesn't. But how does it look like this? And I said, it looks fine to me. And I want my hair down a little longer, fine. I said, I don't have a problem with that because look at me. So we can get into this hair thing, I remember when I was in this hair thing, I don't want to tell you. But every week to the beauty parlor and this styling, that styling. And I came home, I didn't want to lay down to mess up the style. And what we used to do when we had the curls, I don't know what they do these days. I got to go back, a few years. But we would wrap tissue paper and then put a scarf and hardly lay down because the next day you want your hair to look almost as if you came out the beauty bar. We really, this body, what we, go through. And the torture and the high heel shoes, oh my. But I had to strut like everybody else, until I got corns on my toes. Don't want to go there. So he's giving us what's true. We have a body. We can't deny it. We're a human in this human body. But what he's saying to us, we're not this body. We're an eternal being within this body. And that's our spiritual knowledge. So, I had flashbacks with this, what he's saying here. Given that we are all in prison, why should we be proud because our prison suit is a little lighter, darker, taller, or shorter? It's still a prison suit. Until we realize our true condition, we can never become properly spiritual. As long as we have difficulty understanding that material life is bondage, we will have to wear prison suits of different qualities until we get exhausted. Many souls do just that. Moving from an Asian body to a European body, to an African body, to an Indian body, and back again. The cycle of birth and death. That is why the great prophets come into this environment and try to get us out of this place. This world is not our home. It is a prison. We must, he continues, we must experience that which we reject or condemn in order to evolve. If we demonstrate a lack of respect for the opposite sex, we must come back again as the other sex to experience the polarity more fully. The most racist people now may be reborn as members of the race they abhor. Many slave masters or people who were involved in the slave trade have had to reincarnate in black bodies to help counteract what they have done. Just as many Nazis have returned as Jews, and many early American settlers have come back as Native Americans. Whew, he gives us quite a bit here. Materially speaking, people are not all alike. Everybody is different, even twins. And we know, we've heard, the fingerprints are different, even though they're twins. Each soul has an individual identity. But at the same time, as parts and parcel of God, all souls are qualitatively the same, whatever the covering, whether the body is infantile, adult, male, female, black, or white. If we are serious about spiritual development, we must focus on the soul. As long as we put the body first, we will continue to be prisoners until we become exhausted with our suffering and are ready to learn how to live like free men and women. We must focus on the soul. When I talk about that with people, I love to refer them to the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada, chapter 2. When Arjuna tells Krishna, the Lord, he doesn't want to fight his family, and he throws his weapons down. And what does the Lord say to him? You call yourself intelligent, you don't know the difference between the material and the spiritual. And he then goes on to explain to him the soul, what it is, how it is, it can't be destroyed. And that's who we are. And as Bhakti Tirtha Swami has told us page out, we're eternal beings. We're a soul made for love within this body. He brought this out in these last pages. He says here, being free means living as spiritual beings. Spiritual beings do not get caught up in the suffering of the rest that the rest of us experience in our growth. Instead, they learn from it. If you do not want to grow, you might as well admit that you are comfortable in your prison. That's all right. It just has nothing to do with spiritual life. And we brought that up, to think seriously how important is your spiritual life. how important is accepting the soul is made for love. That you have a body, but you're not the body. And who you are in that body is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And he's telling us how the Lord loves us. He's within us to guide us. This is your spiritual life. And the last question, and then we'll end here. How can you or other spiritual teachers help us to conquer lust? Maybe many of you have been asking, how do I conquer this lust? You've been reading, lady, and reading. I still don't get it. Sometimes you got to review it and go over it. I hope you're getting the book, or it's not online, I'm sorry, e-book, but you can purchase the book at Krishna.com. It's worth the study to imbibe and then put into practice in your life. How can you or other spiritual teachers help us conquer lust? And this is his answer. In countless ways. Just remember that we are not interested in teaching you how to remain a slave or a prisoner. We love you too much to play the illusion game with you. We're not going to pat you on the back about how well you're enjoying your prison house. You have come to the wrong place if you want somebody to stroke you because you have beautiful blue eyes, nice afro hair, a powerful physique, or a beautifully shaped body. He knew who he was talking to when he was answering this question. All of us sitting up there thinking we're so cute and adorable. And yet he's trying to penetrate and let us know we're in prison and we're in a prison suit. But there's a way to get out. As he said, this human body is called the escape vehicle. But we have to use the intelligence. We read about that. And we have to have teachers and listen. He says, your body is already starting to fall apart. Just look in the mirror. What do you think is going to happen 20, 30, or 40 years from now? You may have trouble walking. Uh-oh. You may have difficulty sleeping. Oh my. Or you may find it hard to eat. And believe me, you get there. Proven proof. For all the care you give your physical body, sooner or later it will deteriorate. So why should you work overtime helping to perpetuate your attachment to something temporary? It is your soul that will remain with you. And that is what connects you with God. Now he's not saying here don't take care of the body. The soul is in the body. The Lord is in the heart, which to give us the guidance to what? And a part of our purpose of being here is to know how to serve God and reconnect with God. So you need a functioning body to do that. Somebody told me one day, they were congratulating me as I was popping my supplements. Well, you sure take care of the body. But my thing is, the Lord has kept me here in this body, and I'm offering myself as a servant. I want to serve in whatever way. So I need a body I can move around in a little bit. So he's not saying here not to take care of the body, but not to make it the all in all and look at me and la-di-da. It's to know the soul within. And the soul is in which every living being. That's why when we greet people, we do pranam. Because we're greeting the soul and offering our hands to that soul. It is your soul that will remain with you. And that is what connects you with God, no matter what condition the body is. If you do not want to be beautiful in a spiritual way, do not bother pondering these discussions any further. That's straight out, huh? Our commission, he says, our responsibility as spiritual mentors is to give you knowledge about how to go back to the spiritual world. That's our original home. If we fail to do that, he says, we are held accountable. Therefore, if we see problems and do not address them, we're not fulfilling our mission and are instead accepting hypocrisy. When ministers, priests, prophets, or other spiritual leaders tolerate hypocrisy, they become hypocrites themselves. We do not coerce. We apply no pressure. But we serve as constant mirrors for you to gaze into, reminding you that you are not this body, that you are spiritual beings connected with God, and that you are eternal. We are of no help if we simply reinforce your belief that you are a temporary body. No one is temporary in essence. We are eternal beings who are just carrying some temporary baggage. If we want to make your temporary, if you want to make your temporary baggage a priority, then go where people encourage such mentality. They may tell you that you are special because of your blue eyes and blonde hair, or because you're African American or Jewish heritage, or because you were born wealthy, etc. Nonsense. You are special because you are connected with God. Because you are His servants. We are all children of the Lord, and everyone is part of the Lord's family. You know, it's really, if we can imbibe this and understand, why are we fighting with each other? Why are we disliking each other, hating each other, even family members? We're all eternal beings, souls in a body that's a part of God. That's our connection. He's our eternal Father. We have to think on these things and see what's happening in our lives, and how this is the knowledge to gain so that our lives, we can end the suffering and end our time on this material plane when it's time to leave it. Remember, he says, we must put nothing before God. That is the value of associating with spiritual people, especially spiritual warriors. Hey, we all hanging out together, right, aren't we, tonight? We're spiritual warriors, and we're getting what we need. So he says, this is the value of associating with spiritual people, especially spiritual warriors. They can encourage each other to deepen their love, to put nothing before the Lord, and to recognize that the soul is the real person, not the body. We are all beautiful and we're all eternal. Take a look around you wherever you are, whoever's with you. Tomorrow when you step out to the office, to the school, wherever, just take a look and see and realize and remember what you've heard tonight. We're eternal beings, spiritual beings. And recognize the soul in each person. Thank you. That's the end of the chapter on what is lust. Are there any questions or comments?
Manjesh was asking, how can you get the realization that you're not your body?
You get the realization. Realization comes from experience. When you recognize that your actions, your words, your thoughts are not connecting with the Supreme Lord, with God. When you're suffering, when you really, he just told us, in this material world we suffer. Let me share what's coming to me. I remember myself when I came new into this teaching. And as I said, chapter 2 of hearing that, and Bhaktivedanta Swami is my spiritual teacher, hearing him just as I'm reading his words. And I was hearing it. And I probably asked the same, how do I know? What I learned, when I would get upset by something somebody said to me, and I went through the mental and emotional and thing, and then remembering what I had read in Bhagavad Gita, how the soul can't be cut, it can't be drowned, and it's eternal. When hearing this, I realized, my realization that came to me was that part that's upset is the ego, who thinks it is the body. If you think the body and somebody says something, then you're going to get upset. But if I know I'm the soul, then I don't get upset. It's a process. But it began to work. And the more Bhaktivedanta Swami talked to us, this last answer, I felt him standing, seeing him in his class talking. I almost got a little choked up experiencing his energy. But we have to work at it. He says we have to practice. We get the test. Do you think you're the body or do you think the soul? Bam, a situation arises. Then you use your intelligence. You use the principles and concepts and philosophy you're studying and reading about to look at the situation. And the more I found, the more I would stop and examine and realize that as part and parcel of God, the soul isn't offended by this, it's the ego. And what's so important, I found out most of the stuff I was upset about wasn't that important. And what I would do, and it's just, he preached us so much about love. And as he said in love, I learned how to back away. I learned not to let anger come up, because that's not hurting them as I react. I'm really hurting my own consciousness. And then my spiritual life was important to me. So I would follow the scriptures. I would follow what the Acharya said, and of course what my own teacher said. And you begin to see a difference. That's the realization, when you see a difference in your life, how you react or respond. And then this whole idea that everybody is a soul. If there's a soul, then they're a part and parcel of God. How do you greet a part of God? How do you treat God? So yes, you desire that. You desire to express, and you keep hearing it. I'm an eternal being. I'm a spirit soul. I'm part and part. Just this last answer. And as we've been talking, challenges and tests, they'll come, and you have the opportunity. He says, we are accountable. So it's a process. He says this path is not an easy path. But every moment that you're mindful and aware of what's going on, and that you are accountable in your relationship with God, and you want to connect with God, and you want your spiritual life to be the most important thing in your life, you begin to realize. Who was that asked?
Manjesh.
And where? Who?
Manjesh.
Where is that person? Did they say where they were? Oh. I hope that answer was helpful, and I'd like to know your location. That's my ego. I want to know where everybody is. That's surrendered to the will of the Lord.
So thank you. Rasa Rasika is asking, how do we detach ourselves from the concept that we are the body while looking after the body and keeping it healthy? How do we see the body as Krishna's energy for his service while we look after our bodily needs?
Well, when you got to go to the bathroom, you can't say I'm a spirit soul and I'm going to live eternally. You go to the bathroom. So you're not going to ignore one for the other. You're going to increase your knowledge and understanding of the truth of yourself. As he kept telling us here, you're an eternal being. You're a spirit soul. You're part and parcel of the Lord. The Lord is in your heart. That you're developing that, increasing that. And yet you're in the body. I tell people now when they say, how you doing? I'm doing great. It's my body that's having a problem. Huh? It's the truth. I feel good. I'm healthy. And yet, I'm glad the camera's off when I get up out this chair to walk. But I've accepted I'm in a material body that's getting older, deteriorating, but you should see me popping my supplements, checking my blood pressure, because I'm knowing that which I really am is in this body, and it's still in there, and the Lord is there to guide me as to what I'm to do. So we're not saying ignore your body. Take care of it in a practical, sensible way. Do your exercise. Walk to keep it agile. I don't want anybody to get in a state where it's hard to walk or painful to walk. You take care of it as the dress you put on or the coat you put on. You take care of it. You don't come in and throw it on the floor and step all over it. You come in, you hang it up, because you're going to want to wear it again. And what happens? You put yourself in the coat. Huh? So it's the soul within. You nurture it. You associate with spiritual people. You read spiritual lectures. You have spiritual practices so that you're nurturing the soul and getting more connected with the source, the supreme. And in the meantime, you sit down, you eat breakfast, you eat lunch, you eat dinner. I see some young people say, I didn't eat today. Why you didn't eat? I don't know. I didn't feel like stopping. But I don't feel good. That's your problem. So you have to, we take care of it, maintain it. Even Bhagavad Gita says, you have to, Prabhupada says, take care of the body. But nurture the soul. Know who you are, as he says here. And everybody is the soul. So I'm not saying ignore the body. Take care of it at the timely times. Whenever I eat my breakfast, I pull out my supplements. When I get through, I clear the table, I go wash the dishes, I pick up my bead bag and I keep chanting, or I pick up the book and read. And sometimes I try to even walk. Okay? Hope that's helpful. It's practice. It's imbibing. We're getting knowledge. As he kept saying here, it's an opportunity. We're having such wonderful opportunities. Those that are getting the knowledge and this philosophy and Krishna consciousness, or whatever you are, and whatever religious practice you're in, and whatever scripture you're reading, see it as an opportunity to reconnect with the Supreme Lord within your heart, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit.
Mayapur has a question. Sometimes it's hard to see that Krishna is in everyone's heart, especially in people that are very inimical or demoniac. I'm not sure exactly what the question is, but maybe just how, what to do about that.
If you're listening to the spiritual master, the spiritual mentor, if you're reading spiritual books, the scriptures, Shastra, if you have a strong desire for spiritual life as your foundation, and again, based on the last answer of knowing who you are as a spiritual being, and that's eternal beingness is in every living entity. But just as we read and studied, lust covers it. And from lust comes anger, and from anger comes illusion, and from we just read it in Bhagavad Gita. So with the knowledge you have, and it's getting the knowledge, self-knowledge, Bhakti Tirtha Swami says, is what a spiritual warrior has to have to be on the battlefield, and using the weapons of love and humility and compassion and tolerance and understanding. So you understand, if you've been working on yourself, you understand what's happening. That person is covered. They've allowed the lust to turn into anger at not getting what they want, the way they want, how they want, and they're angry. And it's really not angry at you. As he said here, everybody wants love. Everybody is crying for love. Everybody is hungry for love. And the lust is a disorientation, a misidentification. But as we also heard, if we're not getting it and feeling it, we look outside of ourselves for it. And we want the other person. So when it's coming, again, the more you are working on self, the more you're gaining self-knowledge. You see it coming. It's like, whoa, okay, Krishna, this is me. I used to say, what in me brought that about? Because I've had some clashes. And the first thing I would say, what in me brought that about? Because they say we're reflections of each other. And sometimes that energy may be subtle going out, and it hooks into somebody else's energy, and they give them a good opportunity. But if you stop and ask and sit, and as he said, just reading his words here, you turn to the Lord. You become still even, and you question, or you listen for guidance, or you know that you're being tested. And we talk about challenges and tests. Test to put God first. Test to see Him in that individual, no matter what's coming out from them. It doesn't mean that you hang around and get abused and insulted. Because He told us in What is Love, you may have to step back, you may have to use harsh words, but with a soft heart. So we're accountable and responsible. I hope that answers you, Mayapur. If not, call me up tomorrow. We can continue talking.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Looks like that's about
it. That's it? Okay, thank you for being there. We finished that chapter, and I promised you, and I'm going to have to do homework. We're going to start next week going through the 17 practices for attaining success in the School of Love. There are excerpts from this particular book and commentary by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. We should have fun with that. But this week, be mindful. See what tests are coming. See what opportunities are coming. He says Krishna, the Lord, Krishna, God, arranges tests and adventures for us. See what adventures are awaiting you. And see how you respond and react, knowing that each person is part and parcel of the Lord, and the Lord is there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Good night.